My name is Nancy Bradford, and this is the 9th video I have made in the Church Committee 3 series. This video has to do with my personal experiences with torture. Since torture is the big topic of conversation these days, I thought it would be good to put a face of a survivor of torture into the conversation. I did a practice video because I didn't have things set right. I made my first 8 videos were recorded in April and actually put up during the summer on YouTube. And the 8th one was the first video I did, and I had to do some editing. So video number 8 actually kind of is the overview of my experience. And I'm not going to repeat everything I shared already in those 8 videos. I will mention a few things from there because they're relevant to what I'm talking about today. First, I wanted to say there's a lot of labeling of people, and I label myself a survivor because I am of unspeakable acts. The labels I would put on myself are labels that are very easy to see and prove, including I'm a boomer. I'm beginning at the boom cycle, not the first year, but at the beginning. I'm an Aries by virtue of my birthday. I'm on the cusp. So I've always had some Piscean traits, but the last few years, in order to be a survivor, I've had to tap in more to the Aries traits. The military calls us U.S. persons. I would say I'm a human being. Obviously, I'm a white female. And those are the labels that I would put on myself. And the important one in this conversation is survivor of torture. I was a teacher, and my students and I used to create the rules for our classroom together as human beings in a small space for long periods of time. We had needed some guidelines to make things go smoothly. So we would come up with, at the beginning of the year, some things that we thought were good guidelines for how we would operate as human beings in our classroom. And then we would put that up on the wall to remind ourselves. I didn't do that when I first started teaching, but as I got more experience and learned some things, that's one of the things we developed. I learned a lot from my students as a teacher. I had students and parents who didn't think I did my job right. Hopefully there were more that thought that I did. And the bottom line was more that the students came away knowing that they were capable of a lot. I had some really, really incredible souls go through my classroom, and I don't know what all of them are doing now. One of the things that I've figured out in the last few years is that when I would see them as young people, then their behavior toward me was, I found it a little unsettling because of how they treated me, but that had to do with the whole Zerzetzen COINTELPRO experience that I've been subjected to, the program that I was put into. I don't know when I was initially put in because no one ever asked for my consent. I dug a chip out of my toe. I dug something else out of a big toe. I've dug other things out of my body. My body has expelled some things on its own. There's still stuff in me. There's places in my body that are not so-called normal. And so it's been a journey to figure things out. But in our classroom, we always said the pledge every day, and I always sang as a music teacher. My first 6 years of teaching, I was an elementary music teacher. So I had that music part of me too. And always sang the pledge, or sang the Star Spangled Banner and God Bless America and all of the patriotic songs with great gusto. I don't do that so much anymore because I know what this government and some of the people in it are capable of doing to their own citizens. The last words of the Pledge of Allegiance are liberty and justice for all. My liberty was put in the shredder, and I'm still waiting for justice. I'm still dealing with the injustice of being tortured in my home by high-tech, electronic, all kinds of unknown things. The torture that I've experienced started, the low-level frequency stuff started about 1993. The whole stalking and interfering with your lives and all that kind of stuff was going on for decades before that, I believe. But again, no one told me. No one said, I'm an operative pretending to be your friend and your fellow coworker. No one said, I live here in your neighborhood and I work for the government, and my job is to track and monitor you. Some of the physical problems that people like me deal with, excuse me, my nose itches. Physical symptoms. Oh, let me show you my shirt before I forget, because it kind of bunches up. Torture is a war crime. Prosecute. It's kind of like they declared war on some of us here in the United States, and they forgot to tell us that we were in a war. We didn't know we were supposed to be fighting. We thought we were going about our lives. So-called American dream is just a dream for a lot of people. And of course, we're talking about people that are homeless, people that don't have enough to eat, people living in poverty, people that, you know, all of what's been going on in the last few weeks. Their American dream, they were brought over from their native country to work for somebody else's dream, weren't they? And of course, we were the invaders. We white folks were the invaders to take over First Nations land. Tried to kill them off. They're still dealing with all of that. But I'm one of the white folks that has been put in a program of whatever the long-term goal was to whatever the program was. The secret program. Some of the torture that we deal with / physical symptoms caused by the torture. Constant energy weapons assaults, Chilling of skin, instant coldness, thermal heating at nighttime with severe night sweats, thermal heating daytime. You can have hot spots on your skull or other places on your body, intense itching, benign or malignant tumors. I had a borderline malignant tumor. In 2004, it was removed. Caused me lots of problems for several years before that. Ringing in ears, body manipulation, induced imagery or thoughts, induced sleep, itchy nose, sneezing, hiccups. Seizures not only induce sleep but sleep deprivation. Seizures, sensation of blunt trauma to head, induced smells, coughing up blood, sensation of electric current running through the body, dehydration, sudden onset asthma, irregular heartbeat, hyperactive bladder, sudden incontinence, sensation of objects being forced into various parts of the body, deterioration of cognitive abilities, jaw or tooth pain, holograms, severe facial and glandular swelling, sleep deprivation, dizziness or loss of balance, blackouts or loss of consciousness, severe disorientation while driving, lesions on internal organs, sudden rashes, sudden appearance of large burn marks, dream manipulation, memory loss, thought monitoring and manipulation, electronic rape, metallic taste in mouth, thyroid problems, electroshocks, nausea, tingling, extreme fatigue, nosebleeds, topical and internal burning, genital manipulation, numbness, vision loss, impairment, hair loss, serious problems of the nervous system, including ALS, Parkinson's, MS, and other diseases. Serious nose itching. I've experienced a lot of the things on that list, some of them regularly recurring, some of them now and then. So the main thing about the torture that I want to talk about in addition to all those is the sleep deprivation. That hasn't been mentioned a whole lot in the conversation in the last week and a half, but a lot of those people that were tortured, they keep talking about waterboarding, and only 3 people were actually waterboarded, but a lot of them were subjected to sleep deprivation, which of course can cause hallucinations. I was reading about a Secret Service agent that was with JFK when he was assassinated, and he'd gone 40 hours with no sleep, and he was hallucinating, and he almost shot Johnson because Johnson got up in the middle of the night to walk around, and when Kennedy had done that, he always called down and alerted them so they'd know it was him and not an intruder, but Johnson didn't know to call him, and so the hallucinating Secret Service guy was relieved that he didn't end up killing the new president a few hours after the other one had been assassinated. So sleep deprivation is a cruel, inhumane, evil way to treat people, and it's used not only by the military and the contractors, it's used in prisons on the prisoners. The torture in the prison seems to be related to the isolated housing unit, when they put them in solitary confinement, and they have a name for it. IHU, isolated housing unit, is that what it is? And they also do sleep deprivation in the prisons. They don't string them up. Well, they used to. The suffragists got strung up in prison in the early 1900s. What was it? How many years did it take them to get the right to vote? But Woodrow Wilson wasn't happy with them out in front of the White House and had them arrested, and they took them to the prison and shackled their hands over their heads to the bars and left them hang like that all night and other stuff. So I don't know. It seems like people have trouble getting medical treatment they need sometimes in the prisons. Um, should think there would be some kind of system in place to help the people that are in there, because they're humans, so they're going to have some issues now and then. In April 2010 was when my extreme sleep deprivation and torture started. In 2008, I found a phone number in my husband's pocket, and was questioning him a lot about that. In the 2009 January sleep deprivation, I think with the weapon that's called put the enemy to sleep, keep the enemy from sleeping. There is one like that. There are, um, you can find the patent numbers and people who invented them. The military, of course, has had great interest in this. The research laboratories in the universities and corporations, the defense contractors, many of the defense contractor companies. Um, I don't, and some of this stuff has become mainstream in just the last few years, but they've been developing all of this kind of stuff for quite a few years. But I didn't understand why I wasn't sleeping. I mean, I'd go lay down when it was time to sleep, and I'd lay there, and I'd turn one side and I'd turn the other and turn back, and I couldn't. I wasn't able to fall asleep, and I was literally kept awake. And that went on for the year of 2009, and I didn't know what it was because I didn't know about all of this program. I started doing a lot of research in 2010 when I got hit really hard. And my husband, um, to whom I was married for 26 years and was with it for a couple years before that, um, he has some issues too. And I can't say that he was tortured, but I was looking at a person there in the last couple years I was with him. I was looking at a person who sometimes his eyes went black and flat, who sometimes had voice changes, who sometimes had serious personality changes. And I don't know what kind of program he was in. He was in the Marine Reserve, so he went to boot camp and went through all of that. And they wanted him to be an officer. It was a good candidate for what they were looking for officers, but he chose not to do that. He wanted to help people, and he he was a school psychologist. He'd done social type work, school guidance counselor, stuff like that. But he was subjected. I was dealing with a person who was subjected to, I won't say torture, but subjected to manipulation of some type. Um, One of the things that I won't get into a lot today is artificial intelligence and mind control, but I've learned a lot about it, and it's related, I think, to everything that I've experienced. But so 2009 was not a good sleep year. 2010 in April, one night at 9 p.m., the torture started, and I was hit with something that beamed the sound of a siren like sound into my skull that kept me awake all night from 9 p.m. until about 6 in the morning. And commencing from then to now, The sound torture has continued. And my computer just did its timeout thing there. I have to keep moving the mouse around. So the torture was relentless, ongoing. Nobody else hears it because all of these high-tech things they have beam the energy through the air, but people don't hear it. Sometimes you can see flashes and dots and things like that. I've learned so much since 2010. The bulk of the learning came since 2012. So 2012, 2013, 2014, these last 3 years have been a huge learning curve about all of this. Meanwhile, being tortured. So I wanted to put a face on a survivor of torture. One of the things I read recently said not very many of the torture people are allowed to appear on camera and talk to reporters. Mainstream media is not interested, or they're not permitted to talk to the people that have been tortured, enhanced, interrogated, tortured. So I've made these other videos, but I didn't talk specifically to the issue of torture much. I mentioned it, and what's been done to me, sleep deprivation, is cruel, inhumane, and evil torture, and I'm a survivor of that. I was supposed to hallucinate and go insane. I was able to overcome it. I've been extremely exhausted many times during the last few years. It's I'm in my home. I was in my home in Colorado. I left there and lived in a farmhouse for, let's see, June, July. I left in June. It was about 3 months. I was in one farmhouse. Then they had it set up for the next farmhouse, and I lived there for a year and a month before I moved into this house. I've been here for 3 years, a little over 3 years now. But I've been tortured in 4 different houses. The sound torture also includes extreme noise harassment, as well as the stuff piped into your skull. I have my version of a tinfoil hat on, which I talked about in one video already, and it's been a total shift. You get when you go into survivor mode, then of course everything else in your life changes, and nothing's quote unquote normal anymore. My eyes do funny things sometimes, and I want the people who know about what's happened to me to step forward and tell the truth. I want to know more about the artificial intelligence. I want to know more about the transhumanism aspect. Those of you who watched the movie Stepford Wives, the original one, and then there was one that came after that, have some idea of how things were portrayed in those movies. There have been many, many movies made that foreshadowed stuff that's been going on behind the scenes that they haven't been telling us about. One of the other things I wanted to do today was document something that happened to me on October 9th. I drove up to Youngstown, Ohio to see the great climate marchers who had marched across the country to talk about climate change. And there was all this staging and scripting that goes on for people like me. I didn't get to see the majority of the people who were the actual marchers that had made the bulk of the march. There were other people there. There were Ohio people there. There were contractors there. There were stalkers, community people that serve as stalkers. So there was all this staging and scripting, and I was disappointed from the standpoint of I didn't get to interact with some of the people who were traveling across the country to do this um, wonderful message of we need to look at what we're doing and make some changes. As I returned home that night on October 9th, 2014, at approximately 8:40 p.m., I was on Interstate 77, just north of mile marker 25. And as I looked in the rearview mirror, a car came ripping onto my bumper almost. Car was traveling at extreme speed right up on my bumper. I don't know how close he was to my car, but very, very close. Cut quickly to the driver's side, the in the passing lane, very close. Cut right back in front of me, again, very close, and kind of did a little spin out over on the shoulder and then sped off. It was a Trans Am type car, Pontiac Grand Am type car. I don't know if it was a Pontiac Grand Am. It was something like that or similar to it. And of course, I didn't have time to react and get any kind of license plate. There's several other vehicles that appeared. I was aware. There was a weird sound in my car, so I pulled over on the shoulder. And there were several other cars that appeared in the vicinity driving by. Some of them may have been close enough to have seen all this happen. Some of them may have been traveling with the person who did this. As I described it to somebody the next day, it was like this all happened in a matter of seconds, milliseconds, just so quickly. But it was almost like I was in slow motion in the middle of it. It was just this weird sensation of the car was there. Terrible things could have happened. They didn't, fortunately. And then the car was gone. And my car made a funny sound. I pulled over. After I pulled over and sat there for a minute or so, then the sound stopped, and I pulled back onto the road and traveled on. And then I stopped to get gas down the road some miles and wrote down everything that had happened, the location and the time. This is psychological torture. I've had things happen on the highway before with bright lights, a car parked off to the side facing me at night with its bright lights on me on a curve. A truck came up on my bumper months ago. It's been months now, fast like that, but didn't pass me. Psychological torture, that you could be in an accident. What I did was had to listen to some good music and calm myself down as I traveled the rest of the way home and not worry about, oh, is this person waiting for me up the road to do that again, that kind of thing. So that's a kind of psychological torture that you experience when you're one of the people in the program that I'm in. I have a sign out in my yard, torture and psyops used on civilians is what it says on one side, and on the other side it says expose the lies. And of course the secrets, because there's a lot of secrets. the mainstream media should be talking to the people who are survivors of torture. A lot of them have been sent back to their countries, sent to other countries. Um, Finding them is probably difficult because they don't want to be found probably by somebody that looks like an American. They've probably dealt with all the Americans they ever want to see in their lifetime. I'm a boomer Aries white female human being who lives in the United States, who has been subjected to torture in my home for years, extreme, for decades, low level, and I'm looking for answers, the lies to be exposed, and I want you to know that there are a lot of other people who have been subjected to this too. I don't know how many people have been subjected to the extreme screaming in the skull. I know about the V2K voice to skull. I know about those people, and I've heard some of them speak in videos. I am in Southern Ohio. Some of the people that are in this program, several of them seem to be in California. There seem to be some in Michigan, perhaps. I watched a video of a little demonstration in Cincinnati several years ago. I don't know, where somebody else is that is like me, but it's a big issue because we're all being exposed to electronics, and some of us have just been severely tortured with it. And being harmed is, we shouldn't be harming people with the stuff that supposedly technologically advances us. The science is neutral argument or statement or whatever you call it, perception, doesn't go very far with me, because science has been used to do such terrible things, not just to me, but to people around the world. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. I said some other things in my practice video that wasn't really a video, but I'm going to let those go for now and rewatch this, watch my eyes do funny things. And it's December 17th, 2014. Talking about Christmas isn't something that I've been listening to Christmas music. That makes me happy. It's one of the ways I've survived is music. Prayer and humor, but being tortured kind of rips the humor out of you. So I hope that you're all having a good day.